Welcome to Thriving at the Beach podcast. I'm Peggy Masterson, and I am delighted to be your host. I am the director of the Partnership Grand Strand Foundation, and in case you haven't heard about us, we are the nonprofit foundation that is an extension of the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Partnership Grand Strand was created by local businesses to serve local businesses, and we serve everyone across all 14 communities that we often and fondly call the Grand Strand. Our work puts us in a unique situation where we get the opportunity to collaborate and support many of the organizations that are busy building a better tomorrow in our area. This gives us a wonderful opportunity to collect the details surrounding these growth initiatives and then share them with you. That's really why we created this podcast. So let's dive right in. So hey everybody, welcome to our newest edition of Thriving at the Beach, where you know our primary goal is to get you excited about the future of not only the Myrtle Beach, but all of the surrounding areas that make up the Grand Strand. And we do that by giving you an opportunity to meet some of the people that are busy working behind the scenes to power the success of our community. And today's show is all about wellness. We're so excited to have Casey Garavito with us here today. She and her husband founded their own business called PAR Physical Therapy, and they have absolutely made a commitment to this marketplace and will continue to tell us more about that in the next few minutes. But before we get too far along, Casey, can you just tell us a little bit about you and kind of your commitment to rehabilitation and wellness?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having us on the show. We're very excited to be here. I am originally from Western Massachusetts. I moved to the Myrtle Beach area in 2012. I received my doctorate in physical therapy up in Massachusetts, also in 2012, and met my husband down here as a student, and he is also a physical therapist. So we worked for local hospital systems for several years at the beginning of our career, and we kind of identified some things that we did not love about working for a large system like that. We really wanted to provide one-on-one hands-on care to every patient that we treated. We were definitely feeling kind of constraints of insurances, hospital rules and regulations, and just felt like we were not providing the best care that we could to our patients. So we had this crazy idea back in 2014, I think, when we got married, that we wanted to eventually open up our own practice. That way we could do things, the way we wanted to do them. Granted, we still follow all of the Medicare rules and regulations, but just being able to provide a different kind of care to patients. So we had our first son, Chase, in 2015, our second son, Cruz, in 2017, which was the year that we made the leap and founded PAR Physical Therapy. PAR does stand for Performance Rehabilitation, but the community knows us best as PAR PT. And we have been open now for almost 8 years, serving the Grand Strand community. We went on and had a third son a couple years ago. So Cash was born in 2022. So we stay very busy between owning the business, trying to be involved in the community as much as we can. That is a big, big thing for us. One of the reasons we also wanted to start our own business was to be able to provide not just education to the community, but also serve the community we live in. So I do not treat full-time anymore, but I do serve on quite a few boards. I serve on the Leadership Grand Strand Board of Regents, Rape Crisis Center of Horry and Georgetown Counties, Grand Strand Miracle League, Strategic Planning Committee, and Coastal Carolina's board up there for their health science department. So that
wow, you're a busy lady.
So you stay very busy.
Yes. But like I said, that me not treating full-time anymore allows me to kind of focus on our community efforts, networking with our community, giving back, and also being able to run our 3 kids around to all the places they need to be. My husband does still treat full time as a therapist.
So you mentioned in the journey that you just outlined that you wanted to do some things a little differently.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that for us and tell us a little more about what that means?
Yes, absolutely. So there are many misconceptions within the field of physical therapy. A lot of people, when you ask them about PT, ask them what it is, they would say, oh, that's where you go after you've had a surgery to rehab, or, after you have been in an accident of some sort, or maybe to help with pain, which it absolutely is. That is a purpose. Those are all purposes for PT. However, I think that in general, we do a very poor job of educating the community as a whole. We're trying to change this, but as a whole, just nationwide, of all of the things we can help people with preventatively. So at PAR, one of our big missions is to teach people that they don't necessarily need medications, injections, surgery. There are so many different options that you can do prior to all of that. And that just helps, for general knowledge for the health and wellness of our community, but also to keep we've worked in those larger hospital systems, so we know the demands that are on healthcare workers in those areas, and it helps keep the demand on them down a bit. Someone who's having excruciating back pain may go to the ER. But if they're educated and they know, oh, I could go see the team at PAR, even though it's bad, it might be 10 out of 10, they can look at me. Their cost is down, the hospital's demands are down, the patient has more knowledge, and 9 times out of 10, we can treat the problem then and there. So that's a big thing for us. We do utilize many different techniques than what you'd see in your typical physical therapy clinic. Our PTs are certified in what's called osteopathic manual techniques of the spine and the joints. So that's a big, long term.
I was going to say, break it down for us, Casey.
That's a big, long term for basically telling people we put our hands on your spine and your joints. Every patient that walks in the door, they receive hands-on care. They're not just coming in to kind of go do their exercises in the corner. We are manipulating their spine and their joints, and we have our hands on them, and same with their muscles, obviously. So just educating people that we are the leaders of the musculoskeletal system. We should be your first point of entry for any of those, injuries, pain, what maybe. And then also on that preventative side of things is you could be feeling absolutely fine and you can come see us. We offer sports performance and injury prevention programs. So these people aren't typically in pain, or they may have things here and there, but they're not typically in pain. They're just wanting to, it may be a 15-year-old female soccer player who really wants to avoid that ACL tear, which can be very common in that population.
Sure.
What can I do? So we take them through. So those particular clients, we're working more strengthening and agility and all of that sort of thing. We see a lot of golfers, hence our name, PAR Physical Therapy. My husband is a huge fan of golf. All the boys golf. I'm starting. I will say I holed out for eagle the other day in our little family round from 82 yards. So
bravo. That's wonderful.
So we see a lot of golfers for what we call a golf fitness program. We utilize some different technology. We have a ground force reaction plate that they step on. They wear what's called a K-vest. We have them swing into our simulator, and we're looking at how their body's moving, which then we take and we assess that information and are able to come up with a treatment program for them to avoid injury. So those are just kind of different.
Interesting. Very proactive.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Proactive is what we really want to teach the community that we can be. Mm-hmm. Don't use physical therapy always as a reactive thing.
Well, one of the things that I think is pretty common when folks think about physical therapy, right? It's kind of back to that notion of not being fully educated, is that you have to have a physician's prescription to get therapy. And based on what you're describing to me, that doesn't sound like it's necessary. Can you explain that?
That is correct. Yes. So now currently in the United States, all 50 states have what is called direct access, meaning you can see a doctor of physical therapy or physical therapist. It is now a doctoral program, but there are PTs out there that have their masters, may have their bachelors just because of when they graduated. Regardless, you can be evaluated by a physical therapist without a doctor's referral. Now, each institution has their own rules for that. So some of the local hospital systems that we have worked with in the past, it is a hospital rule that they need to have a doctor's referral. So when
Okay.
you're in private practice, you know, that kind of becomes more lenient. You also have to look at insurance rules and regulations, of course, but we take direct access. Someone can call and say, can I come in and be seen for back pain? I haven't seen a doctor. Yes, absolutely. Would you like to, we offer cash pay options, or would you like us to verify your benefits and run your insurance? Now, with certain insurances, we will need a doctor to sign off on the plan of care once we've evaluated them within a certain number of days. But people are just not aware. They're like, well, I can't come see you. I haven't seen a doctor yet.
Right. That's why I
Well,
wanted to ask that question, because it's almost, well, it sounds backwards
Yes.
right now. The kind of way things have always been done
Right.
has changed, and
Yes.
PAR is doing their part to make sure people understand it's different today.
Absolutely.
Yes. One of our big terms that we use is flipping the pyramid. We're trying to flip the pyramid, meaning, you know, someone gets injured, say they're in a car accident, and a couple days later they have back pain. They go to the ER. They get muscle relaxers. They take x-rays. They refer them to their primary care. Maybe their primary care refers them to eventually an orthopedic surgeon. They get more imaging done, more MRIs. Usually at the end of all that, which has now taken a couple months sometimes, they're referred to PT.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
a
now
few
we're
$1,000
seeing,
later, right?
and not to mention the costs on our healthcare system, the demand on the healthcare system. But if they were just educated and knew, okay, I got in this accident, I'm gonna go down and see the physical therapist that I know and trust, that I've worked with before, and they'll tell me from there, is this necessary? And there are times that we do tell patients, you know what, you need to see the orthopedic surgeon. Absolutely. And we have very good friends locally that are orthos that we work with all the time. So if something like that were needed, we absolutely refer out. But it's just getting people to understand how backwards it is. Like, you can start at physical therapy and not need any of that. So flipping that pyramid of just really, truly educating people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it sounds like to get folks to at least come in and speak with your team and then determine what the next steps are.
Yes.
Sounds like it makes more sense,
Yes,
right?
and-
Instead of waiting, thinking, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
So,
Right.
awesome.
Yes, we always do complimentary screens. So if someone's unsure or they're like, I don't know if it's really going to help, we invite them in, have a free screen with one of our therapists. We'll do an assessment. We'll kind of talk about what we found, what's going on, what the best course of action is. And then that would be the time, too, that we may say, maybe you should also get, an x-ray or an MRI, or you don't need to. It's not needed. Let us work with you.
I love that, because you're almost giving the patient the kind of empowering them to make an educated decision for themselves and what route they need to go, versus, like you said, the pyramid down.
Yes.
You're flipping it the other way. So.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, BJ, because so many times patients don't realize they have even an option of where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I bet that's true.
They will come to us and say, well, we went to so-and-so hospital, had an x-ray, so they just sent me right to their attached, physical therapy clinic, which we have worked at them. There are wonderful clinicians at all of them, but they just weren't aware. You have the autonomy. You're the decision maker of your own health care. So then they're like, okay. And then usually once we get them in, if there's any other issues in the future, they're like, I'm going to PAR, and they'll tell their whoever it may be.
Sure.
And like I said, we have great relationships with local Ortho SC. We work very closely with, and so they have their own physical therapy clinics as well.
Right.
But so we work hand in hand with them too. So it's just what people know, who they trust, and the kind of therapy that they enjoy. Some patients don't like hands-on techniques, right? So it's just a very different type of physical therapy that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back, a lot of the preventative stuff for the athletes, that is also usually typically not run through insurance. So that's nothing either that we would need a referral for. They just call and say, hey, I want to, that 15-year-old ACL, my daughter's planning to play in college. We want to avoid a ACL tear. Can we start a strengthening and agility program? And usually that would be a cash pay patient.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, you mentioned that your business has been around for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're currently located where?
We are currently inside of Carolina Fitness. It's a large teal gym on Highway 544, also known as Dick Pond Road. And we work inside of there. And then we, 1 month ago, opened our second location in Merle's Inlet, which is at the end. It's at the crossing of 707 and 17, right next to an Anytime Fitness.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So, kind of on that topic, a lot of local businesses want to be in the position where you are, right? You've had your business, you established it, and now you've grown. So, tell us a little bit more about the growth of your business, kind of why you guys decided to make that decision, and maybe what the future may look like for you guys moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. We were very blessed during COVID. So where, obviously during that difficult year, 2 years, when a lot of businesses had to shut down, people still needed physical therapy.
Sure.
People were still in pain. People were still injured. And we couldn't close. So we followed all, again, rules, requirements, and masked up, and we treated people. And we grew during COVID, which we always say was just such a tremendous blessing because, we had friends and family that, lost their jobs. But again, people needed PT. From that, each year, we have continued to grow. Word of mouth is really huge for us. That's probably our number one marketing, source is what people say about us, which obviously means the world to
Sure.
all of us as a team. And eventually we just got where we were in the space we have in the Socastee clinic. We could not fit any more therapists or any more patients.
It's a good problem
And
to
we were
have.
like, this is a great problem to have. And I will say my husband and I, we were very nervous about opening a second location because everything was going so great with the first. And it's like, okay, a second, here we go. New issues, new problems, but we knew it was time. We kind of looked at where the majority of our patients were coming from within the Grand Strand area. Even though we are on 544, we had a significant percentage were coming from Merle's Inlet, Pawleys Island area. We also have a significant population that come from North Myrtle Beach area. So we kind of looked at the numbers,
Sure.
and the numbers showed that this next clinic should go Merle's Inlet. So that's where we've decided to open the second one. We are very pleased. Like I said, we've been open 1 month, and it is already, it's taken off. So
Yeah.
we're very excited because, we had to take out that business loan to get going. So got to pay that back. But I think with it taking, 7 years to go from clinic 1 to clinic 2, it will not be that long to go from clinic 2 to clinic 3 now that we've kind of done it and been through it. So again, it'll be continuing to work with the community, networking and seeing where those patients are coming from, whether we go west into the Conway area or
Sure.
north into North Myrtle Beach area for the eventual third and maybe fourth clinic. We always said no more than 3, but now we've been throwing around that 4 number, but we'll see. Number 2 just opened.
Well, I love that story because you believed in yourself, you marketed yourself, you did your market research, and you made an educated decision to grow your business. And I think a lot can be said from that. A lot can be learned from that. So that's awesome to hear that maybe there will be a location number 4 down the road.
Yes,
so.
we will see.
Well, and healthcare is such a big, it's a big need in this market. It's needed everywhere, but especially so, I would think, in this area as it's grown so rapidly, and it's grown with folks that are kind of approaching that age where they might have a few more aches and pains and, things that they may need some therapy on. So I'm sure that played into your decision to grow as well.
That was a huge factor in growing, just the rise of our population here in the Grand Strand. Significant increases over the last, just since I've been here 12 years. I mean, new roads that are making it easier to come into the Grand Strand, everybody moving here, many of those people being retirees.
Surely.
So that is one reason that BJ and I have discussed this before. We do take insurance at the clinic is because a significant percentage of our patients are on Medicare, right? They've moved here, they're on Medicare, they want to use their Medicare benefits.
Surely.
So, but yes, people, just how much it has really boomed here has obviously helped our growth. And that's why when we look at other private practices and other hospital-owned physical therapy clinics, we always say, my husband and I, there are enough fish in the sea for everybody to be successful within physical therapy. There are so many people that need it, and there are a lot of times very long wait lists. So we can all locally be successful with it. It's just a matter of really educating people on what we can provide them.
And I like how you said earlier, obviously a lot of your clientele is an older demographic, but you also kind of, to me, it sounds like you break the stigma down of physical therapy is only for an older population, right? I think a lot, like myself, I'm 35 years old. I don't need to go to physical therapy. I'll just take some Advil, right? But just like you said, preventative maintenance of being an athlete and being able, it just sends the message that physical therapy can be used at any time when you need it. And I really can appreciate that. Absolutely.
We, obviously following HIPAA guidelines, I cannot tell you anyone specifically, but we have treated PGA Tour players. We've treated a couple of PGA Tour coaches. Major League Baseball pitchers.
Nice. Very
high level athletes. And again, whether it was for prevention or they had an injury or they had a surgery or they're just trying to figure out what's the best way to make my body move so that I can be successful in what I want to do. And that ranges for everybody. We have a 65-year-old grandmother. What she wants to do is pick up her grandchildren and play with them, right? What that 22-year-old golfer wants to do is win the Masters. Win the Masters. So we always tie it back to the patient's goals and what their functional goals are and what they want to be able to accomplish, and then we tailor their program to that.
Well, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about Thriving at the Beach podcast and the whole notion of kind of showcasing folks like yourself that are not only investing in the community to educate, but also investing in improving the quality of life for the folks that live here. And then thirdly, financially investing in expansion plans. And those are exactly the kind of things that Partnership Grand Strand was created to support and fuel in any way we can. So we thank you for that. You are playing a significant role in that wellness field to be able to improve the quality of life for folks that live here. And we're grateful to you for that. We're also grateful to you for Par 3's sponsorship of our youth leadership camp.
Yes.
Your organization demonstrated your community commitment right away as we had our inaugural camp this year. So I wanted to ask a little bit about what made you feel like that was something that Par physical therapy wanted to sponsor or get involved in.
Yes, absolutely. So knowing BJ for quite a few years now, as well as Mr. Dan Hoppy, when they approached me about the opportunity to sponsor the camp, I immediately was like, yes, this is something we're passionate about. We like to think of ourselves as leaders in the community, and we want to start building other leaders, and that starts at a young age. I mean, really, it can start in elementary, middle school.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the earlier the better. So just instilling and empowering these kids at younger ages through a camp like this with just the lessons that you all were able to share with them and teach them is just tremendous. And I think that in turn, that also provides such a richness to our community, having the younger generations be involved and teaching them many different topics. But we were just chatting about this earlier, the importance of mental health and keeping yourself healthy, both physically, mentally, emotionally, all of the things. Again, showing them that at a young age and then allowing them to grow as leaders and just being mentors for them.
Right.
So that's why we were like, absolutely, that's something we believe in and we would love to sponsor.
Well, we appreciate your sponsorship, and hopefully we lived up to your expectations of what we delivered for the community.
Absolutely. So. And I can't wait to be there next year.
Yeah. Open invitation.
I love to hear that.
I know. I was away this year, so I had to miss it, but I've heard wonderful things. So
maybe
kudos
we'll get you guys to
all.
do some stretching or some
you
morning mindfulness before the kids start running across Coastal's campus.
We would love it.
Get them stretched out and ready to go.
We would love that.
Well, as we kind of wrap things up, Casey, I always like to ask folks when they come on the podcast, especially folks that have been in this community for a while, as you have, what kind of changes have you seen in, say, recent months or perhaps maybe recent years that are contributing to your willingness to invest in this community and continue to contribute at the many levels that you do? What kind of, what's your impression, I guess, in general, of where we're headed and what's new and different that you hadn't seen before?
So I was in Leadership Grand Strand 2 years ago now, and that program through the chamber was extremely eye-opening to me, both personally and professionally. I highly encourage people to apply to that program, but that allowed me to see, as a business owner, kind of some ins and outs of different community, we'll say, departments and workings that I was not privy to before, or I just didn't know. Sure. And like I said, that really opened my eyes to what was going on in the community, because I think, we hear so much negative all the time, everywhere, whether on a community level, state level, national level, world level. That just always fills up people's head. And I think people don't always focus on the positive things that are going on in the community. And this area, many thanks to the programs of the chamber, is trying very hard to kind of get rid of that negative outlook, and just between revitalizing downtown and all of the different programs that are offered locally through the chamber. Like I said, I do sit on these 5 boards. All 5 of them are in their own way providing different resources to the community, and that is so important. So I think as we continue to grow, because the Grand Strand's going to continue to grow, it already has grown significantly, just getting word out there of the positive things that are going on. Leadership Grand Strand also helped me with networking significantly. That's pretty much how BJ and I met, was Leadership Grand Strand and then Changemakers and all of that. So just getting people more involved, and I just see such a bright future for this area if we continue to all focus on the positive things and the hard work that is going on between so many people in the Grand Strand.
Well, sitting on 5 boards, I'm sure you've experienced this whole notion of there's so many work streams that are heading in that positive direction. And what we usually hear from folks is they're starting to see all of those work streams convene and head in a similar direction. And I
Yes.
think that's so powerful because that's when the magic's really going to start to happen, when all these wonderful people that have been committed for literally decades in many instances.
Some of them their
are
whole
gonna-
lifetime, that's what they've focused on.
Yep,
And
because this stuff doesn't happen,
Right.
when you snap your fingers. It takes a long time, and it takes the commitment of a village, as we call it.
Yes.
A
Absolutely.
lot of people. So we
Yes.
thank you for your involvement in the community, for bringing PAR physical therapy to us, and for joining us here today at the podcast. I hope you'll come back and visit with us again.
absolutely. Thank you all so much for having us.
Our pleasure. Thank you.